finish this message, I'm just going to sort of round things up a wee bit at the end. Because we're living in these times, folks, and we're not to be ignorant of what's going on, and the Lord tells us to be careful and pray. So, Father, we just pray in the name of Jesus, our hearts would be open, and even anything, Father God, that we are maybe battle with in our minds today, Father God, that you would just give us a peace, Lord, that we would, Lord, just receive from your word today, Lord God, as we listen to this message, it's an important message, Father God, concerning these end of the end times. And so I just pray you bless Amos, Lord, anoint him with fresh oil, and give us ears to hear as we've just heard, and a heart and a mind to understand what you have said to us in these times. Father, for the glory of your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, folks. I'll not touch it. You might want to open the curtain behind us or something.
Okay, so what we're going to be talking on the whole situation to do with Revelations 13. Now, of course, to understand Revelations 13, we also need to look at all these other scriptures, all the other evidence. And I'm telling you, this has to have been one of the most puzzling scriptures I've ever come across. You know, very, very, very hard to choose. Now, of course, the world that we know promotes every single sin you could ever think of, you know, and of course, the majority of the world is never going to be able to get into the kingdom of God, because that's what all of this is to do with. The whole situation with the Antichrist is really, it's like as if we're seeing these seasons taking place for when God's kingdom comes down on earth, you know, and which is going to be very, very exciting when that happens. It's going to be very interesting when he comes to destroy the evil, wicked nations. So anyway, what we're going to be focusing on is that we're going to focus on the symbolic nature of the dragon of the heavens, the beast of the sea, and the beast of the earth. So there's three main characters here. And number two, we're going to be looking at the beast of the seas, the symbolic nature, and its connections to the Antichrist. And I'm very, very sorry, but I actually forgot my notes. Sorry about that. Yes, yes. Getting way ahead of myself there. Way ahead of myself. So anyway, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be looking at these first two beasts. We find out in Revelations 12, it's really all talking about Rome, basically. So these three beings here, the dragon, this beast of the sea, and the scarlet-colored beast, well, those two are one and the same anyway, but they're all connected to Rome in some way. And the beast of the sea in Revelations 13, and sorry, I just said that. So anyway, moving on. So we're just going to read Revelations 12, so you can turn to Revelations 12 if you would like to, and I'll just read from here. So it's at verse 7, and it says here, "And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." So we definitely know that the symbolic nature of this dragon with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, which is the 10 evil nations, and that this is definitely talking about Satan. So whenever we read dragon, the symbolic nature of the dragon, we definitely know it's talking about Satan. So next here we're going to be learning about the beast of the bottomless pit here, the symbolic nature of what this beast is actually all about. So we're just going to read here in verse 8 here, and it says here, the beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, so destruction. So what we're going to do is that in order for us to get a good idea of what this beast is all about, what it's symbolic of, we have to try and look at some clues here as to what this bottomless pit is. So we're just going to look into that just now. In Revelations 20, and it says here, this is verse 1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So this happens way after the situation with the Antichrist, way in the future. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. So we actually realize that this spiritual place is, this bottomless pit has to be a spiritual place that is like hell. Just because we know that Satan has been bound in this, because he's obviously a spirit being. So what we find here is that the beast is definitely has to be a spirit fallen angel and not a physical man. Some people think the beast is the Antichrist, but I would say no, as we'll find out later. What we actually learn is that we learn later that the beast is connected to the Antichrist, but they are two different beings who are one with each other. So we need to think of them like that the Antichrist is being possessed by this particular angelic being, this spirit being called the beast of the sea. So Revelation 17, we're just going to look into this at verse 10, and it says here, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. So this is the little horn. This is the Antichrist, because he continues a short space of 3.5 years of the war in the saints. And it says here, and the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th. So we've got the 8th king, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So we find out here that the beast is the 8th king, and the Antichrist is the 7th king. So that's how you have to separate the two of them, but they're actually connected to each other. So the beast is a king who has to be a fallen angel that is in the bottomless pit. So we're going to read Revelations 9 here at verse 11. And they, which is the demonic locusts of the bottomless pit, had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So just as we had landed the talk of Daniel 2, that we realize that Constantine had merged himself with this angelic being called Apollyon, and that they've got a false Jesus, that they've actually merged Apollyon or Apollo with Jesus for the false form of Christianity. So we're actually finding out here that this is actually what's going on here, is that he's actually a fallen angel just like Satan is, but they're not the same, obviously. So the beast has to be the fallen angel Apollyon, the sun god, the Greeks said, helped to fight in the Trojan War. So Apollyon is of war, just as the beast is of war. So the beast has to be Apollyon, the destroying angel. So one of the most important things on this to realize is that Apollyon is connected to as being a type of sun god, and usually any of the and the majority of the time is that Satan is usually connected to lightning, like a type of lightning god, like Zeus, for example. So that kind of helps us to separate the two different beings there. And it says here, and the dragon and the beast are also worshipped by the world in Revelation 13. So So we're just going to read here. And it says here, verse 4, and they, which is the world, worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? So we've got two beings here that have been worshipped by the world, the dragon, Satan, and the beast, Apollyon. So what we learn in Daniel 11 is that the Antichrist, he actually honors two gods. These two gods will be Satan, the dragon, and Apollyon, the beast of the sea. So we're just going to be looking into this. What we find here is that this first god is Satan the dragon. And it says here, Daniel, we know that Daniel was in Babylon and would have been familiar with the Babylonian gods. And we actually look at that the god of forces is actually fortresses, which is Marduk. That he was the Marduk in Mesopotamian religion, the chief god of the city of Babylon, so the god of fortresses, is a fortified city, you see, back in those ancient times, and the national god of Babylonia. As such, he was eventually called simply Bel or Lord. And then we find here the connections of Zeus with Satan, and of course Zeus was connected to Baal, and we find that Marduk was Lord of the gods, just as Zeus, Satan, was king of the gods, so you can almost say that he's higher than all the other gods he was perceived as. He was also Marduk was connected to thunderstorms, and of course Zeus, which is another form of Satan, was of lightning and thunder. And also Marduk was known later as Bel, a name derived from the Semitic word Baal or Lord. So we've got here the connections of Satan, that the dragon Marduk is Satan of Revelations 12. So there's the dragon form of Marduk, the Babylonian dragon form. And then we find that connected, that this could be why Satan is called the dragon in Revelations 12. Because some of the scholars now have realized this is actually a type of dragon form, and they looked into this. We're going to look at the second god, which is a strange god, which has to be Apollyon, the beast of the sea. And it says the strange god in Daniel 11 used against strongholds is a war god, because he was used for that of war. In the future, of course, at some point, the Antichrist will use this strange god to go against the strongest of fortresses. So we learn that Revelation 13 tells us the beast is of war. And we're just going to read that. It says here, and they, the world, they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So there we have it, Apollyon of war, the beast of war, and this strange god of Daniel 11 is of war also. And of course, as I've just talked on, this is the same being that Constantine had merged himself with, and he also merged the image of Jesus with this particular being, Apollyon, also, that we find from a documentary that I talked about in Daniel 2 talk.